Interestingly enough, men who are born with a 5AR deficiency notice that they basically, their PSA, their prostate specific antigen in blood work, is almost untraceable. And not only that, but they never ever develop prostate cancer. It never happens. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Jacob from the Lifters. In this video today, we are going to be talking about finasteride. It tends to be when people talk about finasteride, they're focusing down on its most well-known element and what it's FDA approved for, which generally speaking is to stop the onset of male pattern baldness or androgenic alopecia. Now, when we get finasteride, it usually can come in several different forms, but it most commonly comes in a 1 milligram tablet. You can also get the topical versions. Problem being with the topical one that it's really hard to measure out the dosage when you're applying it that way. Same with any topical. And you can also get a sort of more concentrated 5 milligram tablet. The most well-known brand doing that probably being Prostate. Those will tend to be prescribed to people to stop the onset of benign prostatic hyperplasia, which is just the enlargement of the prostate basically. Contrary to belief, an enlarged prostate doesn't actually show any more sign of being prone to developing cancer than a sort of normal sized prostate. But what people who suffer with benign prostatic hyperplasia will notice is it's harder to urinate. They probably feel like they have to urinate more often. They might get a bit of a sort of burning sensation. Just anything sort of urinary tract related is going to be the problem. What tends to happen is as the prostate enlarges, it pushes against the bladder, making it harder for men to urinate, basically, to pass urine. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today, to be honest, guys. It's more the prostate related element of finasteride. I might do a video about it in regard to sort of offsetting androgenic alopecia at some point, but I feel like there's already a lot of videos out there. You can check out Derek, More Plates, More Dates. He's probably the expert on that sort of thing. But the prostate specific part of this is what we're going to focus on today. 1 in 8 men in their life will get diagnosed with prostate cancer. So I think it's something worth talking about, basically. A trial funded by the US Cancer Institute took place between 1993 and 1997 with 19,000 men taking part in the study. What they initially found was people who were taking the finasteride over this sort of period of time against a placebo saw a decrease in cancer development by up to 25%. Fewer than 100 men in the trial died of prostate cancer in a 2-decade follow-up. We seem to notice this finasteride could potentially shrink the prostate by up to 25%. Obviously, it depends on the gentleman taking it, the guy taking it, and how they respond to that drug. There's a lot of theories out there and a lot of sort of medical doctors who support the theory that using finasteride could really reduce the risk of developing prostate cancer. But in order to understand why this is theorized, we need to understand the MOA, or the mechanisms of action of why finasteride, how it works basically, and why it might be linked to the cancer prevention. So let's go into that now. So throughout our bodies, we have an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase, or 5AR for short. 5AR is responsible for turning free or a portion of free testosterone into its sort of 5-alpha reduced counterpart or androgen, which is called dihydrotestosterone, or DHT for short. DHT is a lot more androgenic than testosterone, and it's also highly concentrated in the prostate. Prostate enlargement can be a side effect of somebody with high levels of DHT. Also, you can notice a sort of spike or a sort of higher level, generally speaking, of PSA when you do blood work, which is prostate specific antigen, and is sort of the primary sort of marker we can use in blood work to identify whether we are at risk of getting prostate cancer. DHT is also the primary, not the sole, but the primary androgen responsible for the miniaturization of hair in men's scalps, which is obviously why it's FDA approved for hair loss, basically stopping hair loss or the onset of hair loss, because the sort of the 5-AR in our scalp, what finasteride does, it's an antagonist of the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, so it latches on and stops testosterone binding to the 5-AR and being 5-AR reduced into 5-alpha reduced into dihydrotestosterone. Hopefully that makes sense. So interestingly enough, men who are born with a 5-AR deficiency notice that they basically, their PSA, their prostate specific antigen in blood work, is almost untraceable. And not only that, but they never ever develop prostate cancer. It never happens. So like we said earlier, the sort of best way, or the sort of easiest way you can sort of check your prostate health without actually just getting a prostate test, is by getting your blood work done and checking PSA. If your PSA is sort of between 0 and 2.5 nanograms per milliliter, you're in a safe range. If it's between 2.6 and 5 nanograms per milliliter, you're still considered safe, but anything above 5 nanograms per milliliter is definitely worth doing some further tests on, because it could mean you're at more risk. Personally, if I got any, if you're a younger guy, especially if you get any reading above 2.5 nanograms per milliliter, I'd just be seeing if I could get any further tests done just to have a look into that. Like I say, especially if you're a younger guy, because you just want to be doing anything you can to eliminate the risk of you later on down the line getting diagnosed with a cancer and having to go through sort of radiotherapy, chemo, all that sort of stuff to remove it. Fortunately, lads, if you get chemo and sort of radiotherapy around that general area, it is going to have massive impact on your sexual health. Could make you impotent or infertile. So if it can be avoided, it's always better. So I always advocate getting blood work done, the same as many other sort of YouTubers in this sort of longevity community. So get it done. So conclusions, just to wrap up: finasteride, it's very easy to get prescribed in most countries, to be honest. It's a pretty benign medication, to be honest. It does have side effects which you should absolutely look into. Effectively, by stripping the most androgenic hormone in your body by 60 to 80%, depending on your individual response, you are going to see some effect from that, no doubt. It might not be a short-term effect, it might be a long-term effect, especially there's sort of concerns about doing it long-term for neurological health, stripping down androgens in that way, because androgens can be sort of neuroprotective. So that's worth bearing in mind. It's definitely something looking into. Certain percentage of men can't take finasteride just because it does again affect their sexual health, impotence, infertility. You get post-finasteride syndrome, stuff like that. So if sexual health is a big thing for you, I'd definitely say do some research into this before you jump on it, and see and always as well, if you do decide to jump on it, do a trial phase and see how you get on, and if you do notice any side effects that are a bit unbearable, get rid or reduce the dose and see how you tolerate that. As always, guys, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't be jumping on finasteride in a bid to try and stop or prevent cancer in the prostate. I'm just bringing to light the discussion. You should always discuss when jumping on any supplement or medication with a medical professional or doctor. I am not a medical professional, I am just interested in the subject, basically. And it's worth bearing in mind as well, guys, if you do have this discussion with a medical professional, technically finasteride is not FDA approved for cancer prevention in the prostate. So if you tell a doctor that is what you specifically want it for, it depends on the doctor. They will have their own opinion on that, but it's less likely they'll prescribe it to you. So again, just bear that in mind. That's all I'm going to touch on today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop it a like, drop it a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell icon to keep up to date with new videos I'm doing. If you want to work together, you can email me at sundaylifters@gmail.com for meal plans, coaching and workout plans. And you can also follow me on all my socials. It's Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Sunday Lifters. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you back here again soon. Ciao.